So first of all, I must say that I'm very intrigued to be here and even virtually have this discussion with you. And I believe that, as you previously mentioned, this posthumanism and all these related theories uh, very are present in our everyday life, and I think that they're going to be more in the future. Um, I was very interested in the topic of posthumanism. And I started getting more interested when I discussed it with my tutor and my supervisor. And I realized how important it is and how broad and open to new interpretations it can be. And it actually is very much related to the past, the present, and the future. I think I had a first idea. I wanted to research the doll, as I call it. So the doll is like it can be many different things. For me, it's a figure. It can be a shape. It can be a model, a mannequin, a toy. But it can also be represented through a post-humanism and transhumanism, and all these related theories. It can be translated into these theories as an artificial intelligence, a technological being, an android, and it can be very much connected to many different living or non-living organisms. Um, so I believe that the doll is kind of a tool, a term that I use to kind of combine reality and fantasy, but also the present, our contemporary philosophical approaches, and a post-human condition um, that can be that is still growing, and it can turn into many different things that have mostly been discussed in fantasy and science fiction, of course. But also, I think technology is kind of this field that can interact with reality and fantasy. Um, I choose a picture here by Julian Rosenfeld. Um, he's actually one of my favorite artists. And I believe that it kind of proves a connection of what I mentioned earlier about technology and life. So I think that our world changes and our body also changes. So we have to look upon new interpretations of our reality and ourself and the body. Of course, our mind as well. The perception of the concept of the body, I think, is redefined, is constantly redefined, and it should be. Everything around us changes every day, and technologies transgress into our bodies and minds. So posthumanism is the perfect field to discuss and trying to reconfigure and redefine ourselves in order to be better adapted also in the future. Um, so I think that posthumanism and other such theories can be the fields of this thinking of our human condition and moving towards a posthuman or a metahuman and transhuman one with all these kind of different ideas that are represented through its movement. I actually, as I start this discussion and I read your paper, I was very intrigued by a phrase you used, that we need new concepts to grasp the digital life world and its ontology. I think it kind of perfectly represents what we want to do with all these theories and the talking around this. And I believe it also helps me to express my interpretation of the digital and artificial and technological existence. So my research focuses, as I said, on the concept of the doll, which lay within different cultural and chronological contexts. It starts from, let's say, a puppet, and earlier than this, actually, when we see the first signs of the doll in prehistoric times. And then we move to automatic and machinic robots and IA, and we can see all these evolution of the concept in different periods and eras, and in different contexts. And I want to emphasize in this way, in its strong historical and artistic value, which can actually prove it can be proved as and used as a perfect tool to kind of approach new interpretations. So the doll for me is viewed through a posthumanism theory, and transhumanism and metahumanism, that I'm trying to be critical upon all these and discuss, and how this figure is translated in fantasy and sci-fi, with emphasis on animation and stop motion as well, which are actually, for me, animation represents a movement, and from inanimate we move to animate. So it's a perfect field again, to kind of reconfigure what it means, what a being is, and what existence really is. So it can be the doll for me can also be something close to the human being. There comes a discussion with related theories such as the uncanny valley and such, already discussed, and it's again a huge topic, and which proves this connection that an inanimate figure can have with a real being. So for me, this Banksy Dismaland is actually a way to kind of start discussing upon the post-human and transhuman, metahuman world. So it's not only about the figure, but it's also about the world that we're building around it, in order to discuss and kind of imagine how this new era and world and philosophy that we're trying to integrate in our lives might actually be in the future. So again, if we kind of look upon all these post-human or post-apocalyptic, maybe they can be. But I think that this kind of relation is very close, and I think these boundaries of post-apocalyptic can be very transgressed again, because I believe that post-humanism and meta-humanism and transhumanism, they're open fields, they're open to interpretation, and they're interconnected. They can represent our future life, but also they can show an example of what it might be. I think that we as humans, we are actually no longer humans if we think it that way. With technology, every day in our lives, it becomes more clear that we are not alone, and it depends what authority and power we give to the thing that we have actually created, which is, let's say, this technological world, these technological beings that surround us. So I think that we live in a transitional, actually, age. We've come to a point where we need an inner journey to understand and rethink our humanity, and move towards the true evolution that probably we haven't yet achieved. And then it comes the question of a meta-human, post-human, transhuman perspective, and what would it be the solution? So for me, as I said before, the door is such an interpretation to kind of reconfigure and reflect upon our existence. So to continue, I choose another example that I was very intrigued, and I actually want to discuss further in a paper that I'm currently writing. Is a documentary of it's called The Immortals, the far side southern point of Europe, which is actually about some people which that they have survived the Chernobyl, and they're scientists who escaped in a remote island, and they represent some, not I would say, but I think it's clear, some transhuman ideals, but also they represent this living forever of the mind and the soul. So for them, first comes the mind, and the body is expendable. So it is another, I think this example is another great idea and field in order to discuss upon the evolution and continuity of our existence, how much important is the body as only a body, as an object, or as a form, a shape, and how much it becomes much more significant when it comes to the mind and the ideas that are related to this. I believe that reaching to a point of the enhancement, actually, of the mind, we can have significant results on the condition and on the condition of not living forever, of course, because I think that if we come to transhumanism, ideas of living forever, I believe this can be misinterpreted. I think that living forever is not in detriment of others, but actually it's about being able to live all together and as beings, and not afraid, although not afraid of death and diseases, and not desperately seeking for something better, something like the anti-aging and all the beauty stereotypes, but concentrating on making our world and ourselves as beings better. So here, I think McQueen also gives another great example of trying to reconfigure and redefine what it means to be you, what it means to be a being, and again, I see these artists' creations and the bodies and the figures that he creates as another interpretation of the doll, of a figure that it is very closely related to reality and fantasy, and it comes in between them, and as a way to kind of reconciliate all parts. So when discussing upon transhumanism, and we come across a term of perfectibility and overpassing limitations, and of course the significance of technology, and how all these are gonna help in order to achieve something higher. For example, Ray Kurzweil is very well known for his opinions upon the matter and the significance of transhumanism for the improvement of the human condition. However, when we turn towards making a perfect human being, a perfect being, there comes many different discussions related. And one of the most classic example, I guess, it's the Frankenstein myth. And then it's in the 1950 or so, it's this Metropolis, which is one of the very classic sci-fi, that they can be very much related to a post-human condition and relation, and how this talk, it has started very much earlier And now we're continuing and trying to, and still trying to integrate it in our lives. But it also proves this fear upon that we still face, and we have always faced upon technology and the domination, which of course I think that we are afraid of it, I guess, but we don't stop um, making it better. And actually, I guess it's easier, partly making this something technological better than a human being, I suppose. Um, so I think um, we have a way to analyze all this is to look to our bodies, our human nature, and then our technological nature. And then we're gonna be able to understand and see all these similarities and differences that we might have with the evolution of other beings. And of course, I think that the ancient myth of Prometheus is another example, another great example that it can be very much connected. And it all starts like centuries and it keeps going on, and the discussion goes on till now that we can look upon more recent examples. Actually, this is a very recent um, uh, cover of the Manière de Voir, which is actually, I think, what we're kind of all asking here, and what posthumanism as a whole is trying to answer. And of course, these are even we can see those figures that are somewhere in between a human and a technological being, or even something else. So when I see this, I go back and say that for me, in my research, I want to introduce a post-human doll, meta-human, transhuman, that's to be discussed and researched upon. But the main point is that it's liberated from limitations of human and animal, human and artificial, and all these boundaries. It's oriented towards new perspectives and directions, which show a coexistence between different beings, human or not, and the transgression of traditional boundaries. For me, the doll appears as an interface, a connection of species, beings, and genres that is related to a new forward thinking and contemporary representations that discuss upon the figure and the whole concept, which can be natural, artificial. It can be related to reality or fantasy, the human or the android cyborg. So looking at this figure here, it of course it's not only the technological beings that are connected. Posthumanism, as I said, I see it as an open field, which can be where everything can be discussed and rearranged, and And we see that through science fiction and fantasy tales, all these, I would say, problems that we face are represented, probably in exaggerated way, and sometimes, let's say, the most corrupted one, or maybe not, and represent an abused human figure, an abused human nature. So I'm also, through my research, I'm also very deeply impressed and intrigued by the concept of the female figure and how it has been interpreted through history, through art history as well, in many, many different ways. And it can also be a great example of this transition and change or not, and evolution. And I want to reflect upon the representation of the female in different spectrums. The many faces she or it can have, from a human being to a human-like being, a female-like, an android, a cyborg, many faces. It can be a technological being, a model, a mannequin, a piece of art, a subject, or an object. It can be related to many different genres, from gothic, with a dead-looking figure, but also a doll and a toy. So again, these are some other representations for me of the doll figure. And however, it doesn't have to do with a female or male, but all these are kind of rearranged, and there's a whole discussion upon how they're going to be in the future, and how it works right now, how we see a male or a female, and how these are going to be discussed in the future also. And then comes also another great for me example of a post-human idea, which is Alexander McQueen, an artist for me, like a fashion designer, an artist. He kind of perfectly related many different aspects of reality. He combined the animal kingdom and the human kingdom, while creating these designs, these fabrics. So a fabric can also be another great example of how we define our body, and what we choose to wear or not to wear. So the fabric is like, so the skin, we cannot choose, but all parts of our human existence are important, I think, in the discussion of the figure and how all these create an existence. So here, I choose to ask this mutation question. So is it a mutation, what we see in these pictures? Is it a mutation of our human nature? Are we moving towards this direction? But I think so. Actually, if I don't know, I have to say what we see in this. There's a shoe. It's called Nanohana Hills. It's an art piece by Sputniko, the Korean artist. So it's actually a pair of shoes that plant rapeseeds into soil, which helps in this revival of nature in such areas like Fukushima or the Chernobyl area. And there comes this discussion which relates art and humanity and the humane and the animal on the other picture. And all these that are kind of interconnected in a way with different uses and different interpretations, but it all comes to a post-human, I think, perspective, which is significant and moves to this slide, where we can see a different kind of is it a mutation? Is it what we need? Is it transhuman? Is it going to be a future? Is it going to be only for people, let's say, who have lost a part, an arm or a leg, or is it going to be us in the future? Is it going to be regular? Does it have to do with enhancement, making us better? So again, we kind of see a relation, however, to this technological and this picture on the other side, which is far older, but it proves again this connection. And from an automaton, we have moved to many different and significant evolutions that can actually help us become maybe better or not. So yes, again, these are some examples of how I see the post-human doll. It can be, again, it can be related to many different myths, stories, tales, in film, animation, literature. I think it's full of examples of a doll which can be recreated, but it holds the same main idea of a figure, a character, which can be many different things. And after all, I think that it has a diachronic importance, and it's also a multidimensional term. So for me, as I said, an important part of the research is relate post-humanism and the term that I use of the doll into animation and stop motion. So I think that the whole discussion is also related to this genre, which is the animation and stop motion, because we discuss of movement and motion, and we talk about automatons and androids and other technological beings and technology. And I think animation is a great field that kind of, I think that it encompasses all those. So that all is a field that suggests how significant the movement is. Its definition even is related to the movement. And also animation, I think gives the ultimate answer as well, as we're trying to animate and give life to a figure. It can be a drawing, but it can also be a figure of a puppet, a stop motion puppet. So I think it's a great field to kind of discuss upon post-humanism. As I move on, I want to mention two very important topics, which is anthropomorphism and personhood. Through these examples as well, we can see a human likeness. We can see objects, we can see pieces of art, which they try to imitate human life. That's what actually a technological being is trying to do as well. And then it comes the question of what makes a person, what makes a human, what is actually the thing that makes us inferior or not, what makes us better or not, what makes us humans. And I think that these figures are trying to prove these thin boundaries between real and artificial, animate and inanimate, technological and natural. So as I said before about the fabric and the skin, this is another, I think, example that proves this rearranged body and the change and the many different aspects that can create a different body. They can recreate and they can make some unique figures and forms and shapes. And here, so one of my recent researches was the anatomy dolls, and as I call criminal dolls, which is it comes from analyzing death and Gothic and how it has been represented through the years and decades and centuries in different representations. And I think that these two examples are also very closely related to the idea of a post-human being and a post-human doll, as I call it. And again, here are some different examples where I try to see the body and life and the animate or inanimate through the research upon this multidimensional and transformative term of the doll, which has plasticity and a high simulacrum element as well. So it is, for me, it was a great. It was great to look at those anatomy dolls and then look at this other characteristic example where I could relate and see that those two are very different, but very much alike, actually. And this is another discussion, again, continuing to all the previous, about the body's extension and the power, and how it can be sculptured to look, again, like something different, something unique, something which is either human nor unhuman, or it can be close to a post-human ideal. Um, and again, I mentioned before about the Frankenstein myth, I guess. And there upon up there, there's an example of the recent Cronenberg film. I think that Cronenberg, as a director, he's another great example of discussing a post-human perspective and the body. And there comes the body horror as well. Um, so I think uh, to kind of sum up as I can, that, as I said, the doll is a very broad field, open to interpretations and change, rethinking, reshaping, and deconstruction. It can encompass all existence. Uh, let's not forget that the doll exists in various different ways throughout the centuries. Even a doll used to accompany a person, a dead person in their graves in the prehistoric times. So there's a very wide etymology of the term. Since then, it has been seen in other forms, spectrums, genres, realities, fantasies, from the automaton, the android, a zombie, a vampire. They can all be connected to the term doll as a figure of science fiction or fantasy that can be actually interconnected to reality and technology. I think it can there can be many approaches of the term, emphasizing its complexity and essence in total. I think around the terms of body and body modification and body deconstruction and transformation and mutation. And I try to interpret them through a post-human perspective in order to understand and rethink the human, the humanity, the humane, and the human nature, and the whole world that surrounds us. I think is the doll is a tool of a post-human investigation and reconsidering. It has many different faces, and it can have much more in the future. Um, So again, these are some examples still discussing upon the body, and all the different sides and interpretations, and how technology is integrated in it. And there, of course, comes the great ideals of immortality, and all these seeking for of living forever. And then this is again, all for me, all these are interconnected. A cyborg and an anatomical Venus. This is an anatomical Venus, actually, which is a life size and made of wax. It's one of those cadavers that kind of make us reflect upon upon life and death, and of course, it's not an example of how a person looks when it's dead, or and yeah, and I'm trying to make a connection between those technological figures and anatomy dolls, and then coming to these models here, which can be kind of representing death in different ways. And I think that the Body Worlds exhibition is one of very characteristic example that we can and very widely known, that it kind of represents this death and technology, and how cryonics or other techniques are used in order to preserve life, or make it as an art piece. So I think these are more examples, and I guess that I have I don't have any more time, I think. So I guess that I would like to close with these questions and reflect upon them and discuss. And this also citation by Donna Haraway as well. And one last, which is this great installation by Shiyota Shiharu. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing correctly. And again, reflect upon the post-human, meta-human, and transhuman condition.